Welcome and thank you for joining us today for a Land Services SA webinar on second part of the easement webinar. This is a pre-recorded session with a live Q&A session at the end of this presentation. We ask you to kindly hold all your questions until the allocated time, where one of our subject matter experts will be able to assist. Land Services SA is committed to providing an excellent customer experience. One way we continue to deliver value to the industry is through our industry education program, where we produce a range of helpful educational materials, hold regular webinars, and host industry events. Our industry education program addresses key topics or frequently asked questions to ensure you remain up to date with contemporary practices. We want to help set you up for success and believe helping with industry education will help reduce the volume of requisitions, meaning a quicker and more seamless experience for your clients. Land Services SA's subject matter experts assist in delivering our industry education program, utilising their years of experience and respected place in the industry. Steve Andrews is a Level 3 Plan Examiner within Land Services SA with over 40 years of experience. He was involved with the creation of both the new textual diagram sheet plan format and the plan presentation requirements. Today's webinar is the second webinar on easements. We will be discussing how easements can be extinguished or varied, and then we'll go through some case studies. We will also be looking at the easements that do not have to be created in a community plan, and the creation of easements outside and inside a community plan. Easements, rights of way, and free and unrestricted rights of way are extinguished automatically by Section 90C of the Real Property Act 1886 to the extent where the dominant and servient land merge and dominant land is absorbed into the same parcel as the easement. A simple rule is to check if the dominant land is being totally absorbed into the servient land. If it is, this is an extinguishment by Section 90C of the Real Property Act. Where the intention is to totally extinguish the easement, and part of the extinguishment is by Section 90C of the Real Property Act 1886, and the other part is by the mutual consent of the servient and dominant owners, only the extinguishment note in the easement details is shown. The annotation Section 90C of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan, must not be shown. The following case study shows when Section 90C of the Real Property Act should and should not be used. In the first before and after, Allotment 2 has a together with right over Easement A in Allotment 1. A division extends Allotment 2 to include that portion of land marked Easement A in Allotment 1. Because Easement A is no longer required, as it is now contained in Allotment 11, Easement A is extinguished by Section 90C. No extinguishment note is shown, but the following note must be shown in the annotation panel. Section 90C of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan. The next case study is where Allotment 101 has a dominant easement right over portion of Allotment 100 marked A. The land division plan alters the common boundary with a parallel shift to the left. Part of Easement A, the light shaded area, is extinguished automatically by Section 90C as regards the dominant right of Allotment 101. The easement appurtenance can be extended to cover the whole of the new Allotment 51, i.e. the shaded grey areas. So, in this case, as part of the easement is extinguished by Section 90C, and the other is part of mutual consent of the servient and dominant owners, only the extinguishment note in the easement details is shown. All rights of way, including rights of way on foot and free and unrestricted rights of way over a public street or road, are extinguished pursuant to Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886. Easements cannot be extinguished by Section 90E. Where land subject to rights of way is to vest as a public road in a plan of division, the right of way is extinguished pursuant to Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886, and the following note must be shown in the annotation panel. Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan. When dealing with a parcel of land which has a dominant right of way over a road, A search must be carried out to verify if the road is public. If it is determined that the road is a public road, the right-of-way is therefore extinguished, and the note Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan must not be shown. If the road has not been declared public, the right-of-way is carried forward. Where the intention is to totally extinguish a right-of-way and only portion is vested as public road, only the extinguishment note in the easement details is shown. The annotation must not be shown. The following case study shows allotment 11 had a dominant right-of-way over the land marked A. Part of the right-of-way has vested as public road as a result of the division. The right-of-way over the land vesting as public road, the shaded area, is automatically extinguished by Section 90E. In this case, the annotation Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan, is added, and the existing easement note does not mention the extinguishment of the right-of-way. Easements, excluding rights-of-way or free and unrestricted rights-of-way, may remain over land that has been vested as road, reserve, or thoroughfare, but can be extinguished pursuant to Section 223 LF 2B of the Real Property Act 1886. Where easements are extinguished pursuant to Section 223 LF 2B, an easement extinguishment must be shown in the easement details. The balance of the easement not extinguished by Section 223 LF 2B must be carried forward as an existing easement in the easement details, unless it's decided to vary or extinguish this part of the easement, or the easement is extinguished in its entirety. Where the easement is partially or totally extinguished by Section 223 LF 2B, the land burden must show the new allotment number with the respective road or reserve. Where the intention is to totally extinguish the easement and only portion is by 223 LF 2B, the prior land description must be referred to in the land burdened identifier and in favour of columns. The new allotment's allotment number with the respective road or reserve must not be shown in the land burdened. Extinguishments by Section 223 LF 2B are not considered a transaction, and as such, an RTU dealing can be lodged. However, an RTC dealing can still be lodged also. Unless the easement is a service easement that does not have an easement in gross title, the title for the dominant land or the easement in gross title must be shown in the other titles affected. This case study shows a portion of the easement has been vested as road. The registered proprietor and benefiting parties have agreed to extinguish that portion of the easement over the road, the shaded area. The balance of the easement will remain. The easement details show allotment 51, Adelaide Road, in the land burden being extinguished and allotment 50 only carrying forward easement A. Note: if allotment 51 were vested as reserve, the same principles would apply, e.g., the land burden would be 51 reserve. Easements, rights-of-way, and free and unrestricted rights-of-way cease where the dominant land vests in the council, crown, or prescribed authority as a street, road, thoroughfare, reserve, or other similar open space, unless the plan shows that the easement will remain appurtenant to that land. A note is not shown for these easements. However, if the dominant easement is still required, it can be carried forward by just showing the existing easement on the plan. In this case study, the whole of the land had a dominant easement right over the land marked A. That easement right is no longer required as regards allotment 2, reserve. No extinguishment note is shown. A variation of easement can reduce the appurtenance where it also extends the appurtenance. A variation to an easement can be used to vary the position, extend, or reduce an easement over the servient land, vary the height of an easement, or extend the appurtenance of the easement of the dominant land. A variation to an easement must not be used to only reduce the appurtenance of an easement, as this is an extinguishment, and an extinguishment note must be used, or to change the purpose of an easement. Where the position of the easement is changing, a new identifier must be used. However, where the in favour is only changing, the same identifier must be used. This case study shows allotment 19 has been divided and easement A has been varied to the position marked B. The example shows that the position of the easement has changed and the identifier has also changed to B. The following easements for the supply of services and internal reciprocal rights of support is protected by the Community Titles Act 1996 and do not need to be created. Easements for support and shelter, easements for the establishment, maintenance and repair of the service infrastructure, easements for the provision of the following services by means of the service infrastructure, for the supply of water, gas, electricity, heating oil, or air-conditioned air ventilation, the transmission of telephonic, radio, computer, and television signals, the removal of sewage and the drainage and water, the removal or disposal of garbage and waste, the provision of any other similar service. For clarification, see Section 24 of Community Titles Act 1996. Easements can still be created for the above purposes. Easements may be created, varied, or extinguished on a community plan and are a condition for plan deposit. Community plan amendments can create service and private easements, whereas strata plan amendments can only create private easements. Both service and private easements can be created outside the bulkback lines of a community plan. Where the servient land is not in a community plan, the servient and dominant cannot be both shown, as the land outside the community plan cannot be redesignated as they are in different acts. These easements can only occur where the easement abuts the subject land. The easement being created can traverse multiple parcels, but must be unbroken throughout. Only the extent of the easement must be depicted, not the servient land. This case study shows a service easement A being created over allotment 71 in D47752. Easements can be created in a community plan where the dominant land is not in a community plan. The servient and dominant cannot both be shown, as the land outside the community plan cannot be redesignated as they are in different acts. The dominant land must not be shown on the diagram sheet. The dominant land must be referred to in the in favour of column in the easement details panel by the land description or title reference. This case study shows a short form easement for sewerage purposes being created over A in Lot 1 that is pertinent to land outside the community plan, being allotment 111 in D57852. In summary, for Section 90C easements, the simple rule is to check that the dominant land is being totally absorbed into the servient land. If it is, then it is an extinguishment by Section 90C of the Real Property Act. For Section 90E easements, where the title shows a servient right-of-way that has previously been declared public, the annotation Section 90E of the Real Property Act 1886 applies to this plan isn't shown on the plan. It's only shown when your plan of division vests the land as public road. Extinguishments by 223 LF2B, where land has an easement that vests as road/reserve in your plan, the allotment number with road/reserve must be shown in the land burdened. Variation of easement. A variation of easement must not be used to reduce the appurtenance of an easement. Easements in a community plan. Easements for support, shelter, services and projections do not need to be created in a community plan. Easements outside a community plan. Service and private easements can be created outside the bulkback line of a community plan. Land Services SA's website has a range of educational and support materials to assist you in your day-to-day work. Our Industry Education Hub is a great place to start. This can be found by clicking Industry Education Hub on the homepage of LSSA's website. A copy of today's webinar will be published on the Industry Education Hub together with recording of previously held webinars. That concludes the recorded webinar section. Thank you for listening. Please remain online for the live Q&A session with our subject matter experts.